Hi everybody, it's Cray and I teach watercolor, and today we are doing our Under the Hill project inspired by The Hobbit. This project was so fun. As you can see, I went for more of an illustrative style, which just means that we get to be a little bit more loose and not care so much about photorealism or that kind of stuff.
Yeah, throw that stuff out the window.
Who cares?
Of this Hobbit house.
We are going to be doing this project in 4 steps. So there's a lot of elements in this painting, so it's basically just layering on top of layers. So our very first step is we are going to put in our door, our sky, and the windows. Our second step is we'll be doing our initial wash of the hill, the grass, the leaves, the flowers. Our third step is we will start to do a second, more medium value and detail layer across all of those elements. And then the very last step is details. So that's a pretty rough outline. It's not super detailed, but work at your own pace, going back and forth in these different elements. And again, this is kind of just more fun and playful, a little bit more like a children's book painting. But you can absolutely do the work to make it more realistic and that kind of stuff. So it's just up to you.
Cool.
We are using 5 colors in this project. So our very first color is black we have here. We have deep blue. We have fuchsia. We have pine green. And we have deep yellow. So as you can see, we will be mixing a lot of colors, which is great. We have an outline. I've already transferred it. If you need help on how to transfer it, there is step-by-step directions inside your welcome note in your box. And also we've shown it in many other tutorials that I don't feel like I have to keep doing it because I've done it for years. So I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
I'm just using 2 paintbrushes today, round 2, round 6. I cut my paper in half to a 6x9 size, and I used my Holbein soft tape to tape off the edges. I have a paper towel handy and some clean water, and that's it. All right, let's do our oath. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun.
Thank you. And I love starting this way because art and painting and creating is about joy and experience and learning and growth. It's not about who can paint the best. It's not about the expectation to be the best. It is not about using it as an opportunity to speak unkindly to ourselves or others. It is a place where we can just play and be free and create. And that's part of the wonderful experience of being a human. So let's enjoy it.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to read the beginning of this book, which we're basing this painting off of. In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit, not a nasty, dirty, wet hole filled with the ends of worms and an oozy smell, nor yet a dry, bare, sandy hole with nothing in it to sit down on or to eat. It was a hobbit hole, and that means comfort. I loved that line.
Oh, that's nice.
It had a perfectly round door like a porthole, painted green with a shiny yellow brass knob in the exact middle. The door opened onto a tube-shaped hall like a tunnel, a very comfortable tunnel with smoke, with paneled walls and floors tiled and carpeted, provided with polished chairs and lots of pegs for hats and coats. The hobbit was fond of visitors. And I love the beginning of this book because already you have such amazing words of what you can do to paint. So comfort, I think of cozy and small and hidden away. I think of plants and colorful and growth. I think of imperfect and I think of handmade. So know that you don't have to do exactly what I'm doing here. You guys can absolutely adjust this to whatever you desire. And there are many different Hobbit homes.
Yeah. So many.
With different personalities. There's even different types of hobbits that live in different areas. And just so like allow yourself to explore that imagination and play and go from there. But this is where I decided to take it. Ready?
Nice. Ready.
All right. So We are going to start, we're going to do our sky wash, and then we'll put in our bricks and our doors. So I have my round 6. I have my deep blue. I'm going to add water to it on my palette to lighten the color because I just want like a hint of sky in the background. So just going to put blue sky here. Just a light wash, nothing too detailed, nothing too extreme. All right, that's it. And then let's do our door. So I decided to go with more, because I went with more like illustrative, so I wanted it to feel bright. But you can make it like, it's a green door, but you can make it like earthy green, forest green. I decided to go with more of a turquoisey green. But play with that, okay? So I have my deep blue and I have my pine green, and I'm gonna mix that together.
It would be really cool to do like a gold inlay in the door.
Oh yeah.
Some kind of like a leaf design or something.
Or even if you guys just have some of that gold ink, you can do that for the knob.
Yes.
Like just little hints. I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow in this too. The more yellow you add, the greener it will be. If you want to desaturate that green, you can add some black or some of that fuchsia. But I kind of was going for like seafoam green.
I know you said sea foam.
Yeah.
But I thought you said sea phone.
You're like, what is this?
What is a sea phone?
What is a seafoam?
Tell me more.
And it was so funny when I kind of like sketched this out and then I painted it, and I felt like my shape was a little bit wonky, like the door and the shadows, like they're not perfect circles, right? Like look around the windows. And at first that was like stressing me out and I was getting really upset at myself. And then I was just like, wait a second. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like I was just like, this could be like a handmade element that, you know, who knows? And I also wanted to really embrace that illustration, especially if you have like a pen, like going over some of these with a pen and doing like an ink and wash. So it really does like feel a little bit more like sketchy and I don't know, whimsical. However, I feel like that has more to do with your relationship with the book and the story is how you would want to portray it. Does that make sense? Like I read this, I remember this was assigned reading in 7th grade. And so I have like a really kind of whimsy view, a little bit of it, where like now when I think of the series and things like that, and like the movies were okay. Not Lord of the Rings. The Hobbit movies were okay.
I haven't seen them. I've only seen the 3 Lord of the Rings.
I mean, Lord of the Rings I think is excellent.
Yeah.
I tried really hard to get my girls to watch them on New Year's because they're long. So I'm like, perfect, we'll stay up all night watching Lord of the Rings. Is there anything better? And they were like, no. But those are a different feeling to me than the book, The Hobbit. Does that make sense? So I think when I think of like Lord of the Rings or like my adult relationship with the movies and stuff like that, there is like a heaviness and a darkness and a more realistic, where when I first approached this book, it was light and it was fresh and it was like this new world opened up through this book in my childhood that made it feel lighter. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So I think that's why I kind of embraced that quality of this painting as opposed to another way. So, but that is to say, I want you to think about, if you've read this book before, what is your relationship to this book? What is your relationship to the story? What do you feel like? And can you communicate that in your style of painting, in your colors that you choose, and how you try to render it? All of that is information, and it's not wrong because it's our own personal experience to this thing. So it will differ from person to person, which I think makes it more interesting.
Totally. Become the Hobbit yourself.
That's right.
Put your personality in your Hobbit house.
Yes. What is your personality? I would have a million flowers. Okay, we got the door. I'm gonna use that same color for the window shutters. And again, don't worry too much about perfection. All right, and then I'm gonna do the brick. So I'm gonna take some of this fuchsia and some of this deep yellow. And it's gonna create kind of like an orange color. And then I like to do like different, like think of brick, right? Some brick is really red, some is really orange, some is really like terracotta-y or like a lighter color.
I've seen terracotta tile.
Yeah, so just kind of play with it. Play with the color mixture, let it vary. And then we kind of did the outline, but I don't want you to outline that circle. I just want you to paint the bricks in between, like lift your brush and leave space between. And just try and adjust your brick angle to match as it moves around. And if you want to try and do it in single strokes, you can do that. I love it when there's a little variation in my values between bricks. So I like to pick up paint and then kind of use it up. And then my bricks will kind of just lighten as the paint runs out. And this is where I sometimes have to like turn my body because my paper is taped down to match the angle. Just like that. Nice little. Okay. And now we can do like a little hint of flowers down here. So we can use our fuchsia. You can mix your fuchsia with your deep blue to get more of a purple color. I mean, wildflowers are also yellow and orange and, you know, blue itself. Like, play with the different colors. And I'm just doing marks, like dashes. I'm not paying too much attention to like, I'm doing a snapdragon flower. You know, like, it's not like that. I'm just kind of...
Colors.
Yeah, just letting it be loose.
Life.
Okay. Now we're gonna move on to step 2, where basically we're just gonna try and cover the whole paper. So all of these elements, we're just gonna go through and paint them. So I'm gonna start with the grass at the top. I'm gonna mix my pine with my yellow to get a green. I'm gonna have it be a little bit more yellow in there to get a nice yellow green. And then just using my 6, I'm gonna stop at kind of like this roof ridge here. And I'm just starting with like a lightish value. I'm not trying to fill out, like you can see it's really dark at the bottom. I'm not quite there yet. I'm just kind of filling it in. And then it's like the grass kind of continues down on the wall. Okay. And then I'm going to use that same green and I'm going to start putting in like a big leaf bush kind of coming out here. And we have an outline here, but feel free to like move away from it. You know, like outlines are not meant to be coloring book pages that you have to fill in and with thick black outlines. The ones that we provide it's just a guide for you, because drawing is a different skill than painting. And although I love to draw and I think it's a valuable skill, I don't want that to stop you from enjoying painting. So that's why we try and provide some outlines for you, so then you just have a little bit more comfort and confidence painting something.
The only thing that should stop you from painting is food.
Why
and really
food?
just bring that with you.
Just make sure you have snacks and you're good to go.
Yeah, just a bowl of goodies.
Okay, so I'm gonna put some grass down here. Again, you can choose the green. I mean, it's actually really interesting. We all have different greens that we kind of gravitate towards naturally. And I'm just painting around the flowers as best I can. But if you get a little bit of smearing and bleeding, not a bad thing. Okay, it's not a big deal. So if you like more of a yellow green, then add more of that yellow. You can do a tiny bit of fuchsia to bring it down. If you love more of that kind of blue green, feel free to like leave the pine green, that green color by itself. And again, there's no wrong here. It's just, what color do you like? Let's paint it that color. And I'm gonna try and work around these flowers. And you can do way more flowers. You can do way more. Like I really considered, there was one, I did a version of this where it was kind of like wooded and there were like trees and stuff in between and a light coming in. And it was beautiful, but there was so much going on there that it was easy to overwork. And that's what I did. I totally overworked it. And it just felt, I lost the lightness that I was trying to, you know, like that feeling of lightness. And so I was just like, I need to edit. I need to edit out some of these elements and I need to use brighter colors and I need to do with that. But that was my own personal decision, my aesthetic choice, and yours can be different. Okay, now I need some fresh yellow because I'm gonna paint the wall of this. So it's gonna be kind of like a cream color. So let's take some yellow. Let's take a little bit of fuchsia. And let's desaturate it a little bit. I'm gonna put a little bit of blue in there and see what goes on. Okay, that feels pretty good. And you can, again, test it. So I have like a tan.
You added blue to desaturate it?
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Because when you do yellow and fuchsia together, that makes kind of an orange. And the complement to orange is blue, which desaturates it. It was funny because honestly, probably you guys know I had the best time with this theme. Like the ideas were abounding. Like it was just so fun. But I had the hardest time with this painting. And one, I think it's because it's so like prevalent in our culture that I felt nervous trying to like replicate something so big. And I just wanted to do more and more and more. And so, yeah, I probably did this project a few times before finally settling on this one. But that being said, I guess I just wanted to give you guys a starting point, a structure starting point, and then let you kind of run wild with ideas. And maybe for you, you're just like, no, I'm not wild with ideas. This book's okay, or this is fine, or even you loved it and it's just like, this feels good. That's good too. But know that like you have the opportunity to add elements here where like you can do a dry brush technique on the right here to make it feel like stone or make it feel a little bit more like earth. You know what I mean? Like you can make this in a forest and you know, like
that would be cool. I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so what other elements can we change up over here?
Yes, what textures, what colors, what...
Is it cloudy? Is it night? Is there a moon?
Yeah, like, I don't know. And I guess I wanted to give you more, like, here is a more simplified approach to this, but run with it. As you will.
Does it snow in Hobbit land? Hobbitarium? Hobbitville?
No. I want to say no, but I could be wrong.
That was a high note.
Sorry.
You got up there with that note.
Okay. And for the steps here, we have some gray. Oh, just stepping stones. Okay, that feels, let's put some flowers in here. And you can even like boop, 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 boop. You can splatter them. If you want to do like actual fleshed out specific flowers, you can do that. I just wanted it to be loose and fun. Do some more, maybe more red. And then what I love to do with flowers too is just kind of smear it around just with water. It creates different values. It makes it feel a little bit more full. But just remember to leave some white spaces in between so we can put like stems and grass and things like that in there. But accidental bleeds on this is totally fine. You can do a garden. You know, fruit
some planters.
Patches. Yeah.
Ooh, a hanging planter from the side of under the windows, maybe.
Okay, that feels good. And now we're gonna start putting in like darker value. Let me actually add this little roof. I'm gonna do kind of that similar kind of brick color. I'm just using my 6. Okay.
We call that the Frida Kahlo gutter.
Frida Kahlo gutter?
Yeah.
Why is it Frida Kahlo? Oh.
Because of her.
Because of the unibrow?
The unibrow.
Okay, now we can start putting in like our darker values. And we're just gonna work all around the painting and just move around depending on what's wet and what's dry. So let me actually mix more of this kind of orangey color for the, around the windows. If you wanna do like little marks so they're bricks, go for it, but I thought it'd be easier just to do a simple boop. But it's actually really hard to get an even circle, even with outlines, even with wonky outlines. So just do the best you can. Okay. And now I'm gonna add a little bit of a shadow underneath the brick. Think about doors and like entryways and how doors are on a different plane than bricks, or like the body of the house, right? So there would be a shadow to show that the door goes in a little bit. So we're gonna mix like a darker seafoam color. So you can take your blue, your pine green, and a little bit of yellow. Try and get a similar color. And let's add a tiny bit of black in there. Not too much black because we don't want it to feel gray. And then kind of like along here, and I have it outlined.
Watch your head.
Oh, sorry.
They live in the Shire, and I was calling it Hobbitville. And I didn't even think of it until right now.
I thought you were joking about it being Hobbitville.
But then I couldn't remember where they lived, and then I'm like, yeah, you know, Hobbitville. It's the Shire.
It's okay. One time I referred to them as, we were talking about Lord of the Rings, and I referred to them as owls instead of eagles. Do you remember? And you corrected me, and I was like, oh, fail.
I did that? I don't think I remember. That wasn't
I did that.
You did that.
I was just like, the owl saved them. And you're like, you mean the eagles?
Oh, no.
And I was like, so embarrassed. Okay, so I kind of outlined in that medium value around my door to just give it a little bit of depth and dimension. And now I'm just taking some of that color and pulling it down to show that maybe there are slats on this door and to kind of blend out that shadow.
I saw an interesting theory, a fan theory, about when Gandalf went over the edge, you know, fighting that big fiery thing. And he said, "Fly, you fools."
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Because like, hurry, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the theory was, what if Gandalf was saying, call up the buddies that you have, the eagles, and just fly to the mountain?
Yes.
Why travel on the ground?
I feel like we've talked about this.
Have we?
I feel like that's how it came up. Didn't it?
Here's the beauty of forgetting a lot. You just recap all the time.
I mean, maybe I am wrong.
I've
heard that theory before, but then I also read a reason why it wouldn't have worked. Although I can't remember what that reason is now.
The only thing I can think is those dragons, the wraiths.
What was it? I'm trying to remember. I'm sure somebody else knows and can
Someone knows
and can comment and let us know.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm kind of just using the side of my brush and allowing there to just be some rough brush stroke. Now don't forget, underneath the gold doorknob there is going to be a shadow because that guy is on a different plane, right? It's poking out of the door. So we got to give it its own little shadow. Okay, I think that's a good start. Great. And we can even do a hint at the top of these windows for that same purpose. It's on a different plane. It goes in a tiny bit, so let's just do a little bit of a shadow. Give it a hint of depth. And for the grass, so think about like the surface of this grass here is coming out and then it kind of like goes in to meet this roof line. So that's going to be shadowed, and then right underneath the roof line is going to be shadowed. But the top part of the grass is actually the highlighted part. So let's mix a dark green. So basically I'm going to mix my green, my blue, and my yellow all together. And let's throw in a little bit of fuchsia. That's going to make it like kind of a brown green. If it's too brown, just add more of the pine green. And then I can go just along here. And I like to outline like so, and then rinse my brush. And then blend out just using whatever color is there that I already laid down. Rinse. There actually, when I was looking in, we have a watercolor Facebook group where a lot of people share not only the projects that we do together, but whatever they're working on. And gosh, I wish I can remember her name. I should have looked it up. But she did a whole series of paintings that were kind of like Lord of the Ring based.
Cool.
And they were so beautiful. Like, took my breath away. Gorgeous. Oh my gosh. Dang, I really wish I can remember her name.
That would be really helpful.
I hope she somehow watches this video, somehow realizes that it's her that I'm talking about.
She's like, wait, that was me.
And then shares it, and it's just like, I'm the one that Sarah was talking about, and reshares her paintings because they are worth your time to see. Just really lovely work. Okay, and I'm going to do one little like yellow along the top here just for vibrance and color. Boop. Bring some brightness back into the painting like so. Okay. And then same thing on this hill right at the top. It's going to be a little bit lighter value. And then as it kind of goes down, it gets darker. I mean, and grass is uneven. What kind of earth is this? Is it smooth grass? Is it kind of like weedy? I mean, I guess from that description, I wouldn't say that it would be like overgrown and wild, but
it's taken care of.
It's taken care of, I would say.
Does it have crabgrass in it? Because that stuff gets everywhere.
Maybe.
It's like fake grass. Crabgrass.
You have strong feelings.
Grass is hard to take care of.
Yeah. Okay, and then for this kind of overgrown plant that's kind of peeking out the side here. So underneath some of these leaves, I'm going to add this darker green. And we kind of want it to be more like a medium value. And that's just to show that there's dimension on the leaves as well. Just gives it a little bit of shape. They can overlap. Think of like a full big leafed plant, how much those leaves actually lay on top of each other. So like even if it's not in the outline, you can do extra leaves on top or something. Just what we're trying to go for is just like full. So I realize that I need to put more leaves there.
Full without being unkempt.
Yeah. Trimmed.
Trimmed.
Trimmed but thriving.
Yes.
Okay. And I think it's time to do the yellow knob. So I'm going to do deep yellow. And to give it a little bit more warmth, like gold, I'm going to add a tiny bit of fuchsia. I had too much water on my brush. I have like a water droplet right on the middle, and I do not like that. So I'm going to pick that back up. Take the yellow / orange. Put a nice little knob right in the middle.
Nice.
Do your best to keep it circular, but no judgment if it doesn't make it that way. Now, underneath this kind of ridge or roof line, we need to add a shadow. So I'm going to mix kind of like an orangey brown color. So I'm going to take my yellow and some fuchsia and a tiny bit of black. More yellow though. We want it to relate to this kind of tan color. So we don't want like straight like red or magenta, right? Like that's too dark. And you can even use that same swatch as a tester, where it's just like, what is just a darker value version of the same color? You know, and you can put them next to each other and kind of test it before you put it on your painting to see. Like these feel like they relate to each other. You know, these just feel shadowed. That feels like a totally different world. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Okay.
When you do shadows, does the shadow end up changing whether you think about it as a cool or a warm color?
Speak more. What do you mean?
Well, so it's darker, but you also added a little bit of that magenta, right? So that's a warmer color in a shadow. But when I think of a shadow, I still think of it being cooler.
Well, this is actually a really interesting idea because there are some artists and styles who specifically choose different color temperatures for the shadows of the subject or whatever they're putting as the shadow. And honestly, if it's a color theory thing to help, I don't know if there's a rule. If there is a rule, I don't know it. For me, I kind of just go with what feels right, but it could also turn into a stylistic preference where you're just like, no, I want this to feel purple, which is the complement, which is a cooler color, because when we think of shadows, we think of purples and blues and like those cooler components. But it could also gray it. So if you use like a purple wash on top, that could actually read as gray, which would also work. I guess the answer is I don't know. I don't know if there's a rule. I just...
Kind of sounds like it's up to your interpretation.
I think it just depends.
Because if you decided to go with a cool color with this one, it would be weird. I feel
like it would stick out to where it wouldn't feel like it's part of the object that I'm painting a shadow on. However, if that is your goal, where you want it to feel disjointed, which some artists do, then that would be your call. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Okay.
Like when I color edit a photo, for example, I like to go on the very far extreme of some settings to see what it tells me about the photo.
Okay, yes.
To then remove or add a different temperature, or if I need to do a hue thing, which I rarely do. But
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so like an extreme would be like you said, where you do something that makes it feel disjointed. Mm-hmm. And that could be really cool.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it done. I actually feel like, I don't know why, but Aaron Scarborough, who did a couple acrylic tutorials for us and is an artist and does commissions and things like this. I feel like, I don't know why I think of his work when I think of that.
Oh, he did. He did a landscape, and he had hay bales in it, and his shadows were a dark blue color.
Yes.
And it wasn't you.
It didn't feel disjointed.
I wouldn't have known had he not told me.
Yeah. Super cool. So that's why I'm just like, there might be a rule that I just don't know.
It could just be play.
Yeah. Now I'm just like, I wonder what would it be like if I actually just did like, if I did a purple shadow, would people actually read that as purple? Would it be like Aaron's where it's just like, no, that's a shadow.
Yeah, and that's it. It's
and then like you moved on. I don't know. Interesting, Keenan.
Wow, what a quandary for our Tuesday.
We're filming this on a Tuesday.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
We don't know if it's Tuesday for you.
Whatever day it is for you, I hope it's a quandary for you as well.
That's right. Now, when you think of shadows too, the darkest part of the shadow, because even shadows like transition in value, would be right underneath the roof line and then kind of soften as it goes out. So I might have to come back when it's dry and just do one more kind of swoop. It's so wet right now that I feel like whatever color I lay down or value, it just diffuses, which is not a bad thing. I mean, that's part of why I really love watercolor, but that's telling me that I need to wait for it to dry before I keep going. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna wait for it to dry. And then I'm gonna kind of just look at my painting as a whole. And the right-hand side is feeling like it's falling off a bit because this is a much lighter value than everything else, right? So let's take some more green and just kind of continue this green down. And then I wanna do like more flowers actually. So I'm gonna grab, this was actually like a really pretty dark magenta-y color. Do maybe some more purples. And it's gonna bleed if I touch it with my wet, into the wet green, it's gonna bleed a bit, but I'm gonna do that on purpose because sometimes I love it when it just gets a little bit messy. And especially if I'm going for like a full, like overflowing garden look, then we want a little bit of just wildness. Okay, that feels pretty good. The left-hand side feels pretty good. If you want to do like one more like layer or maybe add some like little stems on some of these, you can also add stems on these. I'm using my 6, but if you want to switch to your 2 because that's a thinner brush, go for it. Just little leaves. And I'm going to take a dark green and add some dark textures. And we're now at this point pretty much on our last step. Details. So just a few little thin.
Oh yeah, you could even add like a path to the door.
Maybe the grass kind of overlaps on some of these.
A doormat that says no dwarves.
Please leave by lunch.
Yeah.
Have you actually seen those party signs that it's just like, welcome to my party, please leave by 9 o'clock?
No.
They're like banners over the food.
That's awesome.
Okay, and I'm just gonna add some like stems to some of these flowers. So just kind of in these white spaces in between the flowers, you can add little leaves too. If you wanna take some water and kind of smear and mess them up, go for it. Like there's a lot of white in between some of these, too much, that it feels not as full. as I want it to feel and maybe too clean. So I'm gonna mess it up with just water. Just a damp brush, smear some stuff around. See what happens.
That's cool.
Doesn't that make it look just fuller? Mm-hmm. And then if you lose some of your darker like values or some of your bright colors, you can wait till it dries and then go and do like another layer on top. I'm gonna have it go into this area a little bit more. Okay. Ooh, that feels much bigger than my reference photo, but I kind of like it. Okay, I'm gonna try to do another shadow underneath here. There we go.
Neat.
That feels more structured.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, I believe that shadow way more.
Mm-hmm.
And
I trust that shadow.
it's not looking too shady.
That shadow's got a portfolio. Dang it.
Did you get my pun?
I did after the fact. And only because you posted up and waited.
I was waiting. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll be here forever. Can't get rid of me, you guys. I will always be here painting for you.
Cultivated a very specific skill set.
Very specific. If you need weekly tutorials, I can do that forever. Okay, so for the bricks, I'm taking my round 6 and I'm just gonna, again, the white spaces in between my bricks are maybe not making it feel as full as I want it to feel. So again, my favorite trick, just take a damp brush, smear. And these were one of the first things we painted. So just smearing them around a bit should not take away the form of what we first laid down. We're basically just filling it in the white. If it does though, depending on how long it's been on your paper and how dark it was or how light it was or how much water you are using to smear it, you can all get different results. But know that you can always wait for it to dry and then do another brick layer on top and redefine some of those shapes if any of them blend out too much. These were really light in value, so you can see they kind of disappeared. So if, again, you can put them back. Let's see how much it bleeds though. Not too bad. It's definitely more orange.
They've been replaced a couple times.
we had to repair.
That part of the gutter's gone out once or twice.
I'm just gonna do a little bit more fuchsia. There we go. And then maybe add some of that warmth over here because I kind of like that actually.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's nice. There we go. Okay. And I kind of want to do just one more layer on my door. I feel like it just seems to be a little bit darker. But that's me looking at it and making a decision. You could have arrived to a different conclusion and I don't think it's wrong. So it's up to you. You just have to be careful working around your knob. That's right in the middle. And don't lose your shadow. That's kind of along the top. If you need to do another layer after this dries to kind of highlight that shadow a little bit more or put it back in, feel free to. And if you want to do little slats for the door, you can. You don't have to. It was actually kind of scary putting them in because like they're thin, straight lines. And I'm like, oh, I'm not too good at doing those. So I just did like gestural ones, which like I did the hint of them, but as you can see, I didn't follow them all the way through. And sometimes that's like little hints is a tool that I will use. So like people will fill in the gaps for me instead of be distracted by wonky lines, you know?
I do know. Because those wonky lines, they get you.
They do.
I actually like them though, I won't lie to you.
Sometimes wonky lines are just fun. Okay, again, defining the shadow. Trying to just give it a little bit of depth and dimension between the two planes. Okay, that feels better. Boop, 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 boop. I feel pretty good about my shadow. Let's actually do just a couple more like grass textures, but I feel like we're kind of like finishing up. These are just like, you can do some rough textures here just for more grass adding to it. Okay, and I feel like the shadow on my door just needs to be darker. I feel like that's the only thing that's really catching my eye. Maybe I'll darken this a little bit again too. This is where it's nice to take a step back from your painting. And if you need to relook at something and say, oh, that's throwing my eye a little bit, or that feels more flat than I want it to feel, or maybe I want more detail or more vibrancy, it's so much easier to see those things after you've walked away from your painting just for a few minutes. You can come at things with fresh eyes. And I actually really love that perspective and idea because I feel like it informs more than just painting. You know, like when you're trying to problem solve for work, sometimes not thinking about it and coming back with a new or fresh perspective is just what you need to solve it. Or sometimes maybe we've had like not a great day, but we have our little kids there and they don't know that we haven't had a great day, but we're showing up not how we would like to because of our bad day, but then when we step back, get that perspective, get a fresh perspective, and try and see things from their eyes of, you know, mom's just coming home. They don't know that it was trafficky and they were late, you know what I mean? They can just see the energy that you're showing up with. So when I think about fresh eyes, fresh perspective, it's super helpful in painting. It's also super helpful with life.
Hence the puzzle table right outside the office.
I was wondering if you were going to bring that up.
Oh, yeah. That's partially where the cough came from. So I was like, I have a perfect thing to say.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was ready for it, and then I was not.
Well, I'm trying this new thing where I really like puzzles. I get sucked into puzzles, and they really like get my brain going. And in the afternoons, I always have this lull, especially after you eat. Where you're like,
yeah.
I want a nap now. I can't work. But you still have a to-do list. You still have stuff that you got to do. So I'm trying to give myself a little bit of puzzle time during lunch to see if that like brings my mind back up.
Smart.
And I've only done it a couple days, but it's worked.
Nice.
But I have to time myself and honor it because I will 5 hours later and then I look up, you know, so I can't do that. But
it's the next day.
Yeah. Keenan's like, did you sleep here?
If I had more hands and dedication, I was actually thinking about swapping out the puzzle you have with a different puzzle and seeing if you notice, or if you're just like, oh, okay, let's do this puzzle.
Let's do this one, unfinished, let's do it. I would notice. Okay, let me do one more shadow. I felt like I lost, when I darkened my door value, I lost my top shadow edge. So I need to put that back in. So just make sure it's a darker value than what's laid down there and make sure that it's dry. And then it's that same kind of thing when we put in that shadow on our roof. It just kind of gives it a little bit more structure. It makes it a bit more believable in terms of depth. There we go. That feels better. And this is where if you want to do a couple slat lines. But it's easier to do straight lines. It's funny because it's hard for me to like look overhead and paint, especially when I'm teaching, right? Because we have an overhead camera. But when you approach your paper straight on and look at it overhead, it's much easier to see if the lines that you're drawing are actually straight. I tend to like to go from an angle, but when I do that, I can't tell if my lines are crooked or not, or, you know, slightly at an angle. So if you're trying to be really purposeful about your straight lines, go at it straight on and overhead. And then it's just easier for you to see what you're actually putting down. Yeah, there we go. A couple got wonky, but it's not too bad. And that is our under the hill house.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I will tell you all of the places you can go while I'm removing this tape. If you're on Instagram, we would love to see your work. You can tag us at Let's Make Art, or if you want to use one of our many hashtags, you can find all of that in the description of this video. If you are on Facebook and you would like to see what other people are creating, you would maybe like an answer to a question, maybe you just want to share your own artwork in a more artwork focused space instead of just like your regular feed, that's called Let's Make Art Watercolor on Facebook. Very kind, wonderful community. And I just can't wait to see where you guys go with this. Again, think about your relationship to the story, to the book. Think about other descriptions that maybe you picked up in different sections that you want to apply. Think about how we can use adjectives and language, and then how does that relate to art? What is comfort to you? What is welcoming? Are there colors associated with that? You know what I mean? Like, it gives us an opportunity to think about our own relationship to words and the images that we associate with those words. And if you can start to realize those things, then when you go to create your own artwork, that's a tool set that you can pull from, where you're just like, I know that for me, blue is peaceful. Or maybe to you, blue is sad. And like, there's no right or wrong. It's all relative to your own experience, which is wonderful. And then you can know, how do I want to communicate a feeling or the atmosphere or the mood of something to the viewer? And you can use all of those kind of like clues, so then they can pick up on it. And pretty soon they'll be like, oh, this feels sad, but maybe it's not because of the color blue. Maybe it's because of, I don't know, the shadows. Does that make sense?
Totally.
They're all different elements that you can use. So take this, run with it, play with it. Can't wait to see what you guys come up with. If you need any of the supplies, you can find them at letsmakeart.com. Keenan, always a pleasure.
Sarah, thank you.
We'll see you guys next time. Bye.